FanDuel Punch Out. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at the night 8-game slate starting at 7:05, and we did the pitcher pod. And you're looking at some of these arms here, and they're not priced very highly. But on FanDuel, it's a little bit different. I mean, you have your Iwakuma at 86. Your Andrews is 7,600. So you still got kind of mixing those values as far as DK. It seems like you can kind of get a premium player at each position. But still, I mean, you're working in some top 2-tier bats.
Yeah, it is different. DK is kind of like running through a candy store, knocking in whatever candy you want into the cart today. But FanDuel a little different, but I still think you can get some really solid values. Yeah,
definitely. And then looking at catcher here, one of my favorites on the slate is Wellington Castillo going up against Jeff Locke. Locke's been very, very mediocre, and Castillo, I mean, a 5.12 WOBA against lefties this season, just unreal. Locke 384 WOBA allowed to lefties this season, so it's Castillo just comes in as I plug him in, just plug him in.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And the price range again at catcher never really kills you, so you can pay up, and it's still really not like paying up. So I like that call. Wieters over 12 FanDuel points in each of the last 4 games. He's really turning it on, all multi-hit games. So I would try to ride that hot streak as well.
Yeah, I mean, 3,100, it's, on occasion, if there was a top price pitcher, maybe you look at paying down, but it's kind of like these guys are in solid spots. I definitely don't mind the matchups with any of these guys up top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, four doubles and 2 homers in the last 4 games. Pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Brian McCann, a guy we talked about in the DK pod, is an interesting GPP swerve just because of Estrada's home run struggles. I mean, relatively, he's been pretty tough on left-handers, 290 WOBA, so not too great, but the home runs have been the issue with him, 1.41 home runs per 9, 2 lefties since 2014. So you can look at McCann, I think, as a term off of some of those guys there.
Right.
Anyone lower? I mean, is there anyone that you could really maybe feel comfortable punting down to?
It's kind of like, why?
Yeah, no, I don't. That's something.
If you're paying up for a 13K pitcher like a Kershaw or an Arrieta or something, then yeah, go down to the 2K 2,500 mark for catcher. That's pretty much what I usually do. But tonight it's just like, I'll splurge. Let me, you know what? Let me get the extra large fry tonight.
Looking at first base here, and we were both in agreement. Ortiz comes in as the top option on the slate, and I mean, he might be overall the top hitter, regardless of positions for me tonight.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's quite a few good options with the lack of star power and pitching, but I mean. This is one of the best matchups of the season so far for a hitter. So I think Ortiz among a few Red Sox bats are just money.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked about Goldschmidt being kind of a possible pivot just because we talked about Locke really struggling. Goldschmidt, a great, guy against lefties. I think he's kind of that swerve. And, I mentioned PNC Park, obviously not anywhere close to Fenway or Chase Field. But still, I mean, Goldschmidt, immense power. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like that. I think he's a nice pivot because ownership's going to get up there for Ortiz today. Obviously, if he's that good of a play, we're not going to be the only ones on him. So it's going to be a lot of people on him. So that is an interesting pivot for tournaments.
Yeah, and if I'm spinning down, I'm taking a look at 3,600 Steve Pearce. He doesn't quite have the eligibility that I want to because he's second base on DraftKings. But if I was going to spin down into GPPs, I think it would be to him just because he's hitting cleanup against a pretty average lefty there in Tampa. So he's kind of back to his usual lefty mashing ways. And I can't knock the price tag.
Yeah, I like that call. I think Encarnacion being in that similar range puts him even more in play than DraftKings, maybe even out of just a Toronto stack. But yeah, I do like Pearce as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. And outside of that, I think first base is kind of a position you pay up for. We talked about John Jaso, but 3,300, I mean, doesn't quite carry that punch for me, especially when Pierce is just 300 more, who's got more upside.
Right. I mean, I think you can look down the list and say, yeah, I could throw some guys in there. But, and I know they're going to get 4 at bats, but the upside isn't necessarily there.
Looking at second base here, and it's kind of a loaded up top, and now there's a kind of a difference, or not a big difference, between pricing between Cano, Altuve, and Pedroia. It's, just a $500 difference between the three of them. But is Cano still kind of your relatively top option tonight?
Yeah, Cano's my one over Altuve. And with him and Pedroia, it's close, but I just think Cano has so much more upside that that's the way I'm leaning. And I think you can fit him in, so I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Cano's been solid. A home run upside. Pedroia kind of works his way in if I'm stacking. I mean, he's been a great cash game guy as well. I definitely don't mind him. He's just narrowly edged out by Cano for me, but I think Pedroia is a great option.
Yeah, no, they're both good. It just depends on if you're paying up for Ortiz, you probably want Pedroia in there. But I mean, obviously you can swerve with Cano and Ortiz. But yeah, I think those are two guys that I just really want in my lineups.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as value goes, I mean, there's not a ton in second base. It's different because DK has Steve Pierce. But I mean, if you want to look lower,
Brandon Phillips, 2,700 against Kazmir, coming off a bad start. So
yeah, I mean, Kazmir hasn't really been anything for me to be afraid of this season. I mean, he's had a couple of starts. I don't mind Phillips, who's hit the ball well this year. Yeah, I mean, Tim Beckham would be another guy with the lefty just to see where he hits in the lineup. But yeah, I mean, outside that, I think really you can pay up at second base and feel pretty good about it. Third base here, a little bit different story. Arenado not necessarily on my radar because he's still the most expensive. I mentioned him being still a GPP play as much as the other Rockies are, but they don't carry quite the same points per dollar value that I feel comfortable taking a shot at as far as a full stack goes. But certainly I still think there is some reasonable upside with most of them.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But a cafe value favorite pretty much every night is finally starting to pay some dividends here in 4 of the last 5. So Justin Turner, 2,600. I think he's one way to get value tonight. I haven't looked at the cafe values tonight, but I'm guessing he's in there once again. He's just always a good value. He's always in there. So, and he's finally starting to get it rolling here. So 2,600, that's a really nice value for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of where I'm spinning down to in that range. I don't mind Travis Shaw, 3,700. Evan Longoria, though, I think is the guy I'm going to be looking at for sure at 4K. I'm paying up there.
Definitely.
Gets a lefty on the hill. You look at this Rays lineup, I think really they're all 1 through 7 very much in play for me.
Right.
Anyone else you're looking at here at third base? I know Seager was kind of a guy you were intrigued with as far as kind of that Mariners sneakiness to him tonight.
Right. Kind of like with the Ortiz Pedroia thing. If you're playing Cano, you might want to throw Seager in there if you're not paying down. But yeah, and I mean Valencia, the 2,900. I'm kind of in on that just because it's Valencia and he's 2,900.
Yeah, the way he's been hitting the ball this season, definitely like him. So he's very much in play. Moving over to shortstop here, and Bogart's kind of by far my top option. Expensive, but certainly worth it. I mean, just continues to be an excellent cash game guy, hitting the ball well. And I mean, his multi-hit games are just insane this season.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'd say Ortiz 1A, Bogart or Betts 1B, and then Bogart's 1C.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're all great, great plays tonight, and I don't know. Try to make as many of them in your lineup as you can.
I mean, I think it's a way to you just want to fit them all in as much as possible.
And fit Jackie Bradley in, and fit Pedroia in. Oh, damn it.
But I mean, that kind of puts the rest of these guys like Seager, Story, Correa as far as GPP plays for me, kind of because they're sitting just a couple hundred away. Right,
and they're interesting pivots. I mean, Machado only 3,700 again, hit a homer last night, and he's just been playing awesome this year. So that's probably the lowest I would go at third, other than Turner.
shortstop.
Or shortstop, sorry.
Yeah, Motter 2100. He's a punt play with the lefty on the hill at shortstop. So I think if you do want to get a Betson and Ortiz, and you want to you might have to take Bogarts out of the question to fit Motter in, just because he is that salary relief play. That's by far, it's not a complete punt just because of how well he's been against lefties so far.
Right. That's a good call.
So I think that's as low as I'm going. 2100.
So you won't be rostering me tonight?
No, I won't. I mean, unless you're heading over to Fenway to get some BP and then you're hitting third in the lineup.
I wouldn't even take myself in BP. Honestly.
Looking at an outfield, and I think the Sox bats there, Jackie Bradley Jr. and Betts coming as kind of the top options out of that over 4K price tag.
Not optimal to pay for a guy that's 4,300 and hitting 7th in the lineup, but I guess Jackie Bradley's making this an actual thing now. So I mean, I guess we roll with it. A 28 game hit streak. If you were thinking that was going to regress, you've been wrong for a month now. It's
insane what he's doing out of the bottom of the lineup, and it's like, you look at guys 1 through 6, and then there's Jackie Bradley Jr. who's consistently hitting the bottom of the lineup, and you're like, oh my God, he's a great cash game option. But then again, this team is very different. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. at this point has been guaranteed 4 at bats a game because they just continuously roll through.
Right.
So it's
and
kind
obviously,
of a different story.
And like you mentioned, he probably wouldn't be getting four at bats every single night if he wasn't on the Red Sox. But I mean, he is. The situation's great, and they're going to keep it rolling. And I mean, he's as good a bet as any.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy like 3,900, Gregory Polanco, come off a big 5 RBI game. As good as Ruby De La Rosa's been, 373 WOBA allowed still over his career to lefties, 1.40 home run per 9. I'm going to take the even hotter Polanco, I think, and having this kind of my top Pirates option.
Yeah, no, I love that call, lefty in that lineup. He's been the best hitter for a while now too. So I like the matchup, and at the price, he should be a top 3 to 5 option in the outfield, and he's not. So yeah, definitely like that price there.
Yeah, I mean, some of these Rays bats, Brandon Guyer, Steven Souza, I like a lot. 34 and 3,200 for 2 guys who hit lefties fairly well, got some big time power. My preference in cash would be Guyer. I think Souza would be more of a GPP option.
Right. Jumping down a little further, Drury at 2,800. We got to see where he's at in the lineup, but 2,800 for him, that's a pretty good price.
I have a feeling he could be hitting leadoff tonight just because of Segura.
Right.
Which would be just kind of an absolute steal. I definitely don't mind him if that's the case. Getting the lefty Jeff Locke there. So that would be kind of an intriguing guy. As far as anyone going lower, I mean, I don't necessarily see a need to. I think you can kind of spin down at other positions if you want, but outfield's kind of a spot where I want to sit in that mid-tier or just kind of pay up altogether.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of power coming from the mid to high range in the outfield tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris Owings might be a guy to keep an eye on. 2,100, just in case that Diamondbacks that lineup shakes up a bit. I think that's where a lot of value could come out of tonight against Locke.
Yep, agreed.
So that's going to wrap things up here with the FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.